Alright, so students, let's start with our very first lesson for statistics paper. Okay, so for statistics, we're having 5 chapters lah. So now we're at chapter 1, the presentation of data. For presentation of data, it is a long chapter, but in the exam, usually they will ask you maybe for one question only, but the chapter is a bit long for this one. Okay, so generally for this chapter, maybe after the first few videos, you should actually able to define the word statistics and also some basic definition of statistics. There are some basic important words that you need to know. Okay, and after that, we'll be able to recognize the difference between qualitative and also the quantitative data. So you need to understand what is the meaning for qualitative and what is the meaning for quantitative. Then you need to construct and also interpret the stem and leaf diagram. So I believe that this is something new to you. And after that, you need to learn how to solve the question related to stem and leaf diagram. Alright, so maybe for the first 2 videos, this is what we are going to cover. Okay, after the first 2 videos, you have to make sure that you know all this. Right. Okay, so let's start with the very basic definition first. Okay, so for the definition in exam, they are not going to ask you to define all the words. So it is basically for understanding purpose. So there are some words which is quite important because you will see in the exam. Okay, but they will not ask you to define it. Remember that. Okay, so first, what's the meaning of statistics? So statistics actually involve a process, okay, a few processes that you collect data, you organize the data that you collect, and you try to analyze them. All right, so we call them, combine them, and we call it as statistics. So statistics, usually you need some data so that you can organize and also to analyze them. Then after that, you can draw some conclusion about the set of data. So the whole here, we call them as statistics. Okay, and then the pieces of numerical and other information we call as data. So when you collect the information, right, all the information that you collect, we call as data. Right, and in order to collect data, you need to observe or to measure some property. This property is called as variable. So all the data, right, it has a special name. As an example, when I'm talking about the height of a student, or maybe the height of students in July intake 2020. So the height of students is actually a variable. All right, and all the answer that I collect from all of you, because I'm asking for your height, right? So when I ask the height from all of you, the value that you give me, maybe 156 or maybe 175 and so on, are actually the data. Okay, right, so there are 2 types of data. You have qualitative data and also quantitative data. Okay, so what is qualitative data and what is quantitative data? So for qualitative data, generally it consists of descriptions. And usually we are using names to represent it. As an example, when we are talking about the colors of car. So when you ask a question like the color of car sold in garage during the month. So when they give the answer, it might be in words, right, or in description. Let's say blue, green, yellow, white, silver, gold. All right, so we call this type data as qualitative data. So the variety of apple trees in a large orchard. So the varieties of apple tree, I don't know what kind of apple do we have in the market, right? So when you give them the name, it should be descriptions or maybe a special name, specific name. So it is kind of qualitative data. And the types of vehicle using a particular road in an hour. So maybe we are driving Honda, Toyota, Perodua, whatsoever. So the types of vehicle, or maybe it is like car, and then lorry, or maybe buses, train impossible on a particular road, that okay, or maybe motorcycle and so on. Alright, so these are the types of vehicles. So you can say that you can see the answer of the name is basically in names, not in descriptions. Alright, so you need to know for all the qualitative data, we usually present them when you want to draw the graph or maybe to draw some summary, okay, some summary figure for the qualitative data. We are usually drawing a bar chart or pie chart where it is easy to see the most common category. Okay, so you can see two graphs here for qualitative data, either a bar chart or either a pie chart. So of course in exam, if you want to save your time, bar chart is still the best. And then we want to save time. Usually we won't want to draw pie chart. Okay, and then I can tell you that these 2 graphs, okay, these 2 charts is actually not important in our syllabus. for so many years of A-level exam, they only ask this kind of question once only, which is many, many years ago. So I believe that in the future, they are not going to ask you this kind of question. Right, but if let's say in case you're so unlucky and they ask you this kind of question, then bar chart, please make sure that bar chart is first priority to save time. Because for pie chart, very troublesome. You need to calculate the angle, you need to calculate the percentage and so on. And then you need to measure the angle when you draw it, right? So it's very troublesome. So bar chart is still the best. Okay, if let's say they ask you to draw a graph for qualitative data. Okay, then now let's continue to the second type of data, quantitative data. All right, so for quantitative data, when we ask the question to collect the data, the answer that you get is usually numerical values. All right, so numerical values. And then again, when we look into quantitative data, there are two types of them. The first one is discrete, another one is continuous. All right, so discrete and continuous, this is two important words that I want you to remember until you graduate your A-level. These two are very, very important because we are going to learn a lot of variable that is from discrete and continuous in the coming chapters for A-level syllabus. All right, so what's the meaning of discrete data and what's the meaning for continuous data? So for discrete data, usually they only take exact values. Usually it's the whole number, usually exact value of whole number. Okay, so such as the number of car. So the number of car, right, when you count the number of car, usually is in whole number, right? 2 cars, 3 cars, okay, maybe 100 cars and so on. So it's in real number, also in integer. The number of hits on internet website, the shoe size. So although the shoe size got half, like 5.5, 5.5, or maybe 7, 8, 7.5, 8.5. All right, but generally they give you exact value. That means there is a particular value given, right? And the number of goals. So like score in a football match, maybe 3 goals and then 0 goals, or maybe 1 or 2 goals. Right, so you can see that all this can take exact value of a particular value. So we call them as discrete data. Then when you look at the continuous data, usually it cannot take exact values, but it can be given only within a specific range. All right, so to a specific degree of accuracy. So as an example, the time taken, okay, to complete a puzzle. So the time taken, right, usually you can say that it is between what until what, or maybe you can tell that the time taken can be 1.25 seconds. If let's say the stopwatch that you are using is very accurate one, okay, to 2 decimal places. All right, so it will be, if let's say you are having more than 1 decimal place, maybe I can say like that, okay, or it is not the exact value, okay, then we call it as continuous data. So usually for continuous data, it's more like this, like time, the weight, speed of vehicle, because when you are talking about the speed of vehicle, it can be measured here, maybe a few decimal places. All right, so we call it as continuous data. Okay, so usually for continuous data, if you want to get more example, let's say volume. Is it countable for volume? No, right? Usually we call it as countable or uncountable. So with discrete data, usually is countable. For continuous data, usually is uncountable. So like volume uncountable, so it belongs to continuous data. Time also uncountable, mass, speed, height, weight. All these are uncountable, right? So we usually put it under the continuous data. Okay, all right. So these are some very basic terms that you need to know for statistics. All right. Again, they won't ask you to define it. Okay, but you need to understand the meaning. Okay, of all these words. Right. Okay, so let's start with our very first example. Do you still remember that just now I told you throughout the whole so many years of A-level exam question, they only ask once, okay, for qualitative data. So which is in year 2005. Oh, I think I forget to tell you in maths paper, right? When you see this one, okay, when you see the example, if I put a bracket like this, what does it mean? It means that actually this is a partial question. Okay, ON means that October, November. 05 means year 2005. And then question 1 is question number 1. All right, so all this code actually means that they are taken out from past year question. Okay, all right, so which is many years ago, 15 years ago. So maybe that time you are only 2 or 3 years old, right? Okay, then let's have a look. A study of the ages of car driver in a certain country produced the result shown in the table. So they give you a table like this, and after that illustrate this result diagrammatically. Okay, so a lot of students when they look at this question itself, they actually don't know what kind of graph that they have to draw. All right, so they might think that, should I draw what? Is it histogram, or what kind of graph should you draw? Okay, so actually I can tell you that when you look at this table, okay, wait, let me adjust it a bit. When you look at this table, let us have a look for the age group. When they are talking about age group, they give it as young, middle age, and elderly. So can you see the name for this table? Young. Age group is young, middle age, and elderly. So because of these three groups, we call them as qualitative. Because when they, when they separate or differentiate all the age group, but they are not using the numbers, but they are using name, young, middle age, and elderly. So they consider as qualitative data. And this one is for gender, right? Then for gender also, male and female definitely is qualitative. So this whole graph is actually qualitative data. Okay, unless they give you something like this. Maybe young, they say, oh, young is maybe smaller equals to 18. Okay, or maybe middle age means from 18 until let's say 45. And then for X more than 45. Okay, so if let's say they give it like this, then this one is quantitative. Quantitative. Okay, so I hope that you can see the difference. So when they give it in name, it is actually qualitative. All right, so that means this whole table, they are talking about qualitative data. All right, so for qualitative data, you can draw either bar chart, or you can draw either the pie chart. Then again, I told you before, to make your life easier, then you just draw bar chart. All right, so if you want to make your life more interesting, with more challenging, then you can try the pie chart yourself. All right, but I'm not going to try it for you. You can try it on your own. Okay, so now I just want to show you roughly how to actually sketch or draw the bar chart. Okay, I think it's very simple. You can have a try also if you want. In exam, they will provide you the graph paper. Okay, the space with graph paper, but for me, I forget to attach it. So you just simply draw it. Agak-agak. All right. Okay, so let's start. We are having two groups. We are having male and females, and also three age groups: young, middle age, and elderly. All right. So what you can do is like, for me, I will separate my data into young, okay, and then middle age, and also elderly. There are three groups here. So this is the age group. Okay, and then for my y-axis, I will put in frequency. That means the number of people. Because when you draw the bar chart, actually for maths, right, when you draw all the graph, you need some numbers, correct or not? So if let's say your age group, you are having three different groups. So when you want to draw the height of the groups, the number of groups, generally you have to make it as frequency for the y-axis. Okay, and then how about male and female? Then we can draw two different color of bar to represent the different gender. Okay, so I will look at the highest number here, 70. The lowest number is 10. So maybe you just follow the ratio that you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say. Okay, so this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60, then 70. Okay, all right. Then now for the young one. So for young male, I'm having 40 of them. Okay, so for young male, I'm having 40 of them. Then you just draw the height with 40 lah, and then you draw a bar. Okay, and then for female, I'm having 20 of them. So for young group, female 20 of them, maybe I'm using green color. So at the height of 20, you draw the young for the female. Okay, then after that, again, continue. For the age, male is 35, so 35 is. Okay, and then for female should be 70. So you should draw a high bar chart, high bar, 70. Okay, and then after that, for your elderly should be 25. So 25 should be somewhere here. And then for the female one is 10. So 10 is quite short. All right, then you can, because you use different color, so if you want to differentiate clearer, then you can draw different patterns of the bar so that people, when they look at it, if let's say they cannot see the color properly, then at least they can look at the pattern. All right, so maybe for the blue color one is horizontal line. Okay, I'm drawing a bit messy now, right? So just make sure that when you draw it, please make sure you draw it as neat as possible. Okay, then after that, to make sure that the people who read your graph understand what are you drawing, then don't forget about writing out a key for the people who are reading the graph. All right, so I'm having two types of color, right? So, okay, so maybe you can just label them. This is male and this is female. All right, so this is what you have for a bar chart. So please take note that for bar chart, right, you will see some space between the groups or maybe between the bars. Okay, all right. So this is something very basic lah. All right, a warm up for you all. So for so many years, they only ask this question only. So you cannot find any other example from other past year, right? Okay, so I believe me personally believe that they won't ask you again for the in the future because this is too simple, right? Too simple to test you all. Yeah. All right. So for the next video, we are going to discuss how to draw the stem and leaf diagram. Okay, which is stem plots. So I think this is something new to most of you. All right, so we'll cover that in the next video.